The corporate world is changing, and the advice that your mom and dad gave you probably doesn't apply anymore. This idea of work-life balance used to be an impossible feat, but today it's easier than I think you even think that it is. If you are constantly watching your coworkers take vacations, go and take the workout class, go to the doctor's appointment, and you are stuck picking up the slack, stick around. This episode is going to be for you. Welcome back to Organized Chaos. My name is Regan, and I am so very, very happy that you are here. 2 years ago, I experienced the worst burnout of my life. Now, I've burned out about twice in my career, probably 3 times in my life. Once was at the very beginning of my career, and the second was in 2022. The burnout was so big, I had to quit my job. Now, this decision had been about a year in the works, but everyone was looking at me like I had made a rash decision with little to no forethought. When in reality, everything had just caught up to me. The 70-hour work weeks, the endless code switching, the back-to-back meetings, the excessive amounts of caffeine, using work as 100% of my personality in order to avoid everything that was going on in my personal life. All of this came together to create the perfect environment for this big explosion of burnout that just took me down. For 6 months, I was stuck on the couch, unable to really do much else. I was crying just deep in tears because I thought that I had failed. I thought that I would no longer be successful. I thought that I had messed up to no end, and that this idea of work-life balance was never, ever going to be something that I could actually achieve. Because up until that point, I hadn't been given a good example of what a clear work-life balance plan could look like. Nobody had ever shown me before how work-life balance didn't need to impact your promotability, how work-life balance didn't need to impact your career trajectory, and you could still achieve everything that you wanted in both your work and your life at the same time. My fear was sitting on the couch that if I didn't work 24/7, I wouldn't achieve everything that I wanted. But at the same time, I had an equal fear that if I continued to work 24/7, it would just end in this endless cycle of burnout that I was currently experiencing. And I will tell you the secret that I learned, which is my definition of success was incorrect. I did an episode on this in the last couple of weeks on how you can learn to redefine success on your own terms. And it's not just a mindset shift that you need to make. It's an actual action-based shift that you need to execute. It's understanding what you prioritize, how you prioritize it, and finding how work fits in to your overall puzzle of life. Because work is really only meant to be one small part of the puzzle. You are so much more than that. You are so much more than any job title or promotion. Though I can understand as a high achiever, as an anxious woman, my career is something that's incredibly important to me. So don't get me wrong. It's not like I'm sitting here and thinking, oh, my career is no longer important. I've just redefined how I'm viewing the importance of my career in regards to everything else that I have going on. Success to me no longer means that I need to climb the corporate ladder. Instead, success to me means I can build a career outside of the wants and desires of everyone else around me, and instead think about what do I really want for my own life, and how do I build time in for the things that I really, really love to do. Because when I was in corporate, I was finding I didn't have time. I didn't have time to take the workout classes. Vacation stressed me out to no end. I wasn't able to build work-life balance in the way that everyone on social media constantly touts. But it wasn't because I couldn't. It was because I wasn't thinking about it in the right way. It was because I was constantly chasing after someone else's version of success. I listened to my mom and dad and thought that if I was the first one into the office and the last one out every single day, that would equate to a promotion. Straight up, flat out, the humbling truth is that's absolutely wrong. I was likely passed over for some promotions and ruined my work-life balance, propelled myself towards burnout because I refused to believe that prioritization is the name of the game in corporate, that it is a game that you need to learn how to play. I thought that if I was the first one in and the last one out, that if I was constantly working, that equaled productivity. Now we know that if you work over 55 hours a week, your productivity actually decreases by over 20%. That's significant. This is where my idea of work-life balance truly shifted. We no longer live in a world where you can separate work from life. We live in a post-pandemic world where we are on call 24/7. So our relationship with work inherently needs to change. Work-life balance does not mean that you don't need to work. Work-life balance doesn't even mean that you can't answer calls in the car, send text messages while you're at the grocery store. It means that you need to be intentional about how and where you spend your time. Your boundaries need to get 10 times more locked down in this post-pandemic world than it's ever needed to before. But with that comes a huge amount of freedom because now you actually have the freedom to work from home. So many companies allow a work remote policy. There's a catch-22 with this work remote policy, though. It is no longer feasible that we are going to be able to log in at 9 and log off at 5 on the dot in the way that previous generations have done before us. Because the separation between work and life is more important now than ever. It's so easy to get caught up in this idea that I can work from anywhere, that I can answer calls in my car, that I can send emails from the grocery store, and start to let work take over your life. I mentioned that being an overachiever, it's so easy to let your work become your personality. Like I've done this a million times before in my previous life, in those previous careers I mentioned. And now we need to get really clear about what is important in our life because work can be a part of your personality. It should not be the whole thing. Like, I don't want to constantly be on call. I want to be able to answer those calls from my car, but I don't want to need to answer those calls from my car. Do you see the difference? I want to be able to respond to a text from my boss in the grocery store, but I don't need to. I don't want to have to. I don't want the expectation to be there. And that is the concern with the way that our generation is moving, is that there is that expectation. Well, why didn't you respond to me faster? This is a concern with company culture in general. I think there need to be clear digital policies around when you are on and when you are off, but it's also our responsibility as adults to speak clearly, to create those expectations, to set the boundaries of what people can expect from us. Because if you don't set those expectations will be made and placed at your feet. And one of the major concerns about a lack of boundary setting is this idea of quiet quitting. I've seen this everywhere, and so have you. People are quiet quitting left and right. The issue for me with quiet quitting is not the fact that you're getting paid to just sit there, like go and do you, get your bag, go and do your thing, go and take the workout class. It's the lack of communication that exists within it. I would so much rather see you be loud and deliver. Be really clear about what you can and cannot accomplish in a certain amount of time and get those things done and then log off. We don't think that there's a cost to every ping that we send, the quick call that we answer, the quick document we're just going to send on over to somebody. But every time you spend energy in one direction, you are taking it away from another. So if you're spending time with your family and you decide to answer that ping, well, that's taken a couple minutes away from the energy that you had reserved to be with your family because we only have so many spoons every single day. I've told you this concept 1,000 times before, and I will say it 1,000 more. I love the idea of looking at your energy in terms of spoons. Every day, you are going to wake up with a different number of spoons. Spoons equate to energy, and you need to be super judicious about where those spoons are spent because you only have so much. So think about that. The next time you are standing in line at the grocery store, I keep using this example, think about, should I respond to this ping? How much energy do I actually have? And is this worth it right now? Now, one of the major concerns that I constantly hear, and I get it, this is a valid one, is that we are in an employer's market. We used to be in an employee's market, a candidate's market, where the candidate had so much more negotiating power. Today, because all of these companies are either downsizing, they're restructuring, they're changing departments, or they're just doing rounds of layoffs, people are afraid that if they don't work 24/7, they're going to lose their jobs. Now, I won't beat around the bush. Companies will continue to make that decision. If that is a decision that they need to make, that is still an option for them. Your job, though, is never safe. Working for a company, your job will never be safe. And that is okay. That's not said to scare you. Instead, I'm hoping to empower you to think that whether or not you answer the 8 p.m. ping, your job is going to be just as safe as it was 5 minutes ago because no one is making decisions around promotions, around firing, around restructuring based off of how available you are 24/7. Unless you are never available and never ever respond to pings, which is a different situation entirely, people are going to be focused on your output. And this is what I want us to focus on. The key to work-life balance is focusing on achievements as opposed to time spent. Because you're overestimating the stakes if you think that being the first person in the office and the last one out is going to make or break your career. Last week, we looked at why vacations and why rest is so important for you in building a sustainable career, and why it's absolutely outrageous that only 48% of all vacation days in the US are redeemed in full every single year. So when you start to think about work-life balance, remember how important it is for you to start to fill in the gaps around the other areas of your personality. What makes you a whole human? What makes you feel like you can come to work as your best and your brightest self? Now, let's even take a step back from that. Why do you work? What is the point of getting that salary in your bank account every single month? Yes, it's to pay your bills, but it's also likely to go on vacation, to travel, to eat good food, to meet new people, to spend time on your hobbies. When you start to think about your job as that means to an end, you can either choose to be so committed and excited about the career path that you've chosen, or you can be okay with the fact that your career may just be your career right now. That is why I find boundaries to be so incredibly important. Because if you're not setting boundaries, you are doing yourself a disservice. You are not allowing other people to see you as the full human being that you truly are. You are not allowing people to understand that work is not your number one priority, but damn if you aren't a great worker. You can still set boundaries and show people that you can get shit done. It is not a problem to put lunch on your calendar every single day. I do not look at you like you are more important or get more work done just because you never take lunch. In fact, I'm sitting there and wondering how you're not starving all the time. Here's a little list of all of my favorite ways that I now set boundaries after learning just how ineffective working 24/7 actually is. The first, overcommunicate. I said earlier on in the episode, be loud and deliver. I constantly overcommunicate. When someone asks me, can you get this done? Not only do I ask the who, what, why, when, where, how, I also sit and say, well, how achievable is this going to be for me and my team? How achievable is this going to be based on the other conflicting priorities I have? And I have an open conversation. People don't get upset when you don't deliver something if you have been open and honest from the jump. Now, if they do get upset, that's their own issue and they can talk to you about it. But people mostly get upset because you haven't communicated it to them. Many times we don't communicate because we're afraid of seeming less than. We're afraid of seeming like we are inconsistent, or we don't know how to manage our time, or we don't know how to work. In reality, by telling somebody, we have conflicting priorities right now, we need to accomplish XYZ first, and then we can follow up with this, you are creating a clear timeline in their head, and humans love clear timelines. So don't be afraid to set those boundaries. You can do it in a kind way, you can be compassionate, you can be very demure, very mindful about it, but you don't need to be concerned that someone is going to look down on your work just because you tell them you got too much on your plate and there's no way that you can do this. The second thing that I love to do now is I put everything on my calendar. I put lunch on my calendar, I put dinner on my calendar, I put a do not schedule on my calendar when I have a deep work that I need to do. You've heard me mention this millions of times before, and I will keep on mentioning it because it is incredibly important. When you give somebody free reign of your calendar, they're going to throw meetings on there at any time. And if you have people in conflicting time zones, they're most likely just going to schedule on over your lunch, schedule on over your dinner. You need to make it clear when you're going to be in the office and when you won't be in the office, so to speak. One of the best things that I've ever done for my work-life balance is take appointments where I need to in the middle of the day. Now, old Regan would have been so afraid that people would have judged her for taking those appointments. I would have thought that people aren't going to believe I can actually get my work done unless I'm sitting in the office from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. at night, unless I'm the first one in and the last one out. Today, if I have a doctor's appointment that I need to take, you best believe it's about to go on my calendar. I'm not going to sit around and be afraid that someone else is going to judge me and then push my own health down the line because of it. That is giving someone else far too much power over your schedule and over your life. Now, I understand that not everybody can take time off in the middle of the day, but it's worth the conversation. If it's truly important to you, if this is an appointment that you absolutely need and it's going to make you and help you show up as a better human, as a better person, be more comfortable in your body, be more comfortable in your mind, whatever it is, it's worth having the conversation with your manager to see how you can build it into your schedule. 9 times out of 10, your manager is going to be understanding, especially in a post-pandemic world where there are often remote work policies, where people know that just because you're logging off for an hour in the middle of the day doesn't mean you're not getting your work done, where people understand that you give some, you get some. How many times have you left in the middle of the day, spent 4 hours working one day, only to turn around later on in the week and work twice as much? There were so many times when I was working in corporate where I would get barely any work done for a couple of weeks because it was just slow. It was just quiet. I wish during those weeks I had taken the time to go and take the workout classes, to go and do the doctor's appointments, because I knew that in a couple of months' time, things were going to get 10 times busier and I was going to spend so many late nights in the office. So you need to get your priorities straight and take the time where you have it. Priorities are another thing that people sleep on way too often in the corporate world. We are constantly plagued by this busy culture, by, oh my gosh, I'm so busy. I just need to go and work and do this and run around and spin around and get sucked into this whirlpool. Like, no. Being busy does not equal successful. It does not equal good. It just means that you are hurtling yourself towards burnout most of the time. So I encourage you, the best thing that I've done is to sit down every single morning and choose 3 different things that I want to accomplish. When you choose the 3 different things that you want to accomplish, that means that anything else you do is going to be a bonus. You're going to skyrocket your productivity because you're actually focused. You are sitting there in the morning and thinking about what is going to get you closer to your overall goals, and you're probably going to be more relaxed while you're doing it. Win, win, win. But when I say the word priorities, you're probably just thinking about work priorities. There are 2 parts to this. There's work and there's life. That's the true meaning of work-life balance, being able to achieve both of those things. And the most productive people are the ones who can pinpoint exactly what needs to get done and how, and the people who can measure their work goals with their life goals. Because I'm sure you've seen people who are training for a marathon at the same time as getting promoted to VP. And you might be sitting there and thinking, how the hell are you doing that? You're also going on vacation in the next couple of weeks. It comes down to prioritization. They know how important rest is. They recognize how important their physical health is for them, and they've set a goal in order to get towards it. And if you struggle with how you can actually set these goals, how you can figure out where each of them should go, what you should be working on now in comparison to next week or next month, I have the solution. I have put together a life audit for you all, and this has been my saving grace since 2022 when I burnt out for the first time. I realized that I needed to compile exercises, some kind of structure, prompts, journal entries to help me figure out how I was going to move beyond my personality just being warped around work. Like I could no longer 100% focus on my career, and I needed to do something else. I needed to become a whole person. So this is the document that I have put together for you all. It's a Notion template, and I'm going to put the link in the description if you want to take a look at it. But if you're questioning how you can start to pull all these different areas of your life together and create a game plan so that you can actually start to achieve your goals, that's going to be the document that you need to look at. Okay, so I hear you. You might be sitting here and thinking, okay, yes, work-life balance is going to be great. Like I want work-life balance. I see why work-life balance is going to be important for me, and I understand some steps to start to get there. But how do I convince my boss or my manager that this is the right path forward? Here's some stats that you can throw at them because it's good for companies. Your work-life balance, your mental well-being is good for companies. Because every single year, companies lose about 32 days of productivity due to depression. So that's not even just like low-level anxiety, that's general depression in their employees because of this always-on culture. This always-on culture is hurting team members. It means that people are less engaged. It means that people aren't excited about coming to work. They're no longer wanting to be collaborative. They're exhausted from back-to-back Zoom meetings. We know that when you work over 55 hours, that productivity decreases by 20%. But on the flip side, when you take holiday, when you take vacation, productivity increases by 30% and sales can increase up to 37%. So that's just good for business. If your manager doesn't understand, as always, you may need to take a look at whether or not it's the right place for you. But many times there are conversations that you can have and there are boundaries that you can set so that you can create a successful environment for yourself where you feel psychologically safe to show up, but you also know that your entire life is not hinging on your career. For most people, they won't actually learn the lesson of the importance of prioritization, of the importance of being intentional with your life until they've gotten the thing that they're working for. The promotion, the house, the job, the relationship, until they've gotten there and looked around and said, Okay, what else? They probably won't realize the importance of this, but you are going to be different. You are going to be different because you're watching this video. And I know that this idea of work-life balance might seem a little bit scary, but I promise you, you have it inside of you. I promise you it's easier than you think. What you need to do, and here's your homework for this week, is to start slowly. Put lunch on your calendar. Like, that's all I'm asking you to do this week. Go and put lunch on your calendar and maybe a DNS or two. See how people react. Create safe ways for you to experiment with this boundary setting. It doesn't need to be big. It just needs to be a small little step. And already I'm sure you will feel that weight lift off your shoulders. And if you already do that, here's the next thing that you can do. Every single day, when you start to feel yourself get worked up or feel yourself feel more drained than normal, go on a walk outside. Go and take 5 minutes to do an activity that you truly love to do. What you're going to see is just how much that rest and that relaxation is going to help you come back and be productive. Because if you're like me, you're not going to believe it until you actually do it. So that's the best way to get ahead. Let me know which of these you're going to try in the comments below. And if you don't already follow me on Instagram or on TikTok, I am at Regan Olsey on both of those channels. I would love for you to follow me if you are trying to build your mental health at work and try to establish some semblance of work-life balance, because I'm constantly talking about it over on those channels and you can get more insider information over there. Otherwise, this has been another episode of Organized Chaos. Thank you so much for being here. I'm Regan and I will see you next time. Thanks everyone.